Thanks the Novacon team 2026 for giving me opportunity, and thanks to the audience and coming from the different part of the country to for this session. Actually, I'm the subject specialist of animal nutrition. So far, I did my works last 20 years in poultry nutrition. Though the separate topics, as I have some breeder experience and hatchery experience, that's why I'm choosing this topic. The topic is hatchability under lens, the science-driven strategy for better chicks. Actually, good quality hatching eggs and good quality chicks that deeply rooted in combination with the biological, genetics, and environmental sciences that span from the starting from the breeding farm to the end of the hatchery. That needs scientific management of parent farm and transportation of egg, as well as continuous monitoring of incubation point as precisely as scientifically. As you know that breeding farm management is an art rather than a science, starting from its chicks, grower, layer management, hatchability management, everything. This is an art, as because this breeder science that encompasses not only the nutrition management but encompasses other subject also, that includes that physiology, genetics, and biochemistry also. With this few, I just start my original topics. Now, that poultry industry now is a major industry for demanding for make up the protein intake, protein demand of the human, and mainly broiler breeder are maintained for quality chicks production, and in layer for the commercial egg production only. For good quality chicks production, this is the utmost criteria to maintain the breeder farm at scientific way. So before that quality hatch production, some pre-incubation factors, the major factors that involve in that breeder farm affecting the hatchability. Number one is breeder farm management. Number two point is egg transportation from point of production to the point of hatch. Number three, hatchery management, and lastly, the management of health, nutrition, and incubation practices. So before that, this is the pre-incubation factor that we consider during production of hatchable egg and quality chicks. That starting from breeder farm. This is the breeder farm is the primary environment for egg production. And number two, transportation. Transportation means the hatching egg transportation from the point of lay, that point of breeder farm, to the reaching at the site of incubation, that is hatchery. So post-arrival storage and preparation is most vital. So at breeder farm, the key points are age and genetics. And age and genetics that comes, that flock age and body weight. It is well established that body weight is the key controlling factor for production of high quality egg. This body weight actually, it is in scientific feeding practices previously so many experiments noted that in unrestricted feeding there is high mortality and low egg production than restricted feeding. So in breeding farm, that restricted feeding should be practiced. Restricted feeding practice in chicks and growing stage, that may be done in two ways. Number one is qualitative restriction and quantitative restriction. In terms of quality chicks production and hatchability, actually it is quality feed restriction is followed, where there is practicing of low protein and high energy diet, so that genetic potentiality of the broiler, that is option transfer from progeny to the parent to the progeny, is better. And feed restriction always make a trace that can be prevented by many ways. Number one way is, you in deep litter condition, you put the mass feed so that feeding time will be extended, and feeding time, speed of feeding time will be as much as possible, so that within the shortest possible period of time bird can get or access it desired quantity of nutrient. In connection with that body weight, there is one point that uniformity. In parent farm, actually more than 85% uniformity is considered as the excellent egg production in terms of quality and quantity. So to get it 85% that uniformity, there should be 3 times 100% grading. Number 1 at 5th week, number 2 10 to 11 week, another 3 18th week. Later on, after production of 5%, we go for comb grading, so the optimum productivity. And during laying stage, actually we do follow that phase feeding. Phase feeding means phase 1, phase 2 and phase 3. During phase 1 phase, not only that bird's growth and maintenance, but energy is expedited for production only, and phase 2 generally recommended for mild muscle development and maintenance of standard egg production. And phase 3, there is in reduced production, you have to control the egg cell quality. And fat deposition is one of the key factor, as earlier speaker told, that you have to minimize fat deposition should be there. So this fat deposition directly dependent with the nutrition. Nutrition means if high protein nutrition with standard energy, that tend to develop more muscle deposition or protein deposition, and in case of low protein diet and standard or high energy diet, tend to more fat deposition. Actually in male bird and female bird actually always do prefer the 10% more body weight than standard to get its optimum productivity. Sometimes it is regarded that during uniformity calculation, the 5% plus or minus, we do preferred always in higher side, not in negative side. This is one of the positive factor for positive egg production. And in semen quality concerned, actually in male, in the after egg production, actually male and female feed is separated. In male, it is always noticed that low protein diet with high energy diet always gives better result. Actually, although it is in breeder's practical manual in so many breeds, that it is depicted that protein content is always same. But after 40 weeks, second part of the lay, if the protein content reduced, generally in male, protein content required is 13% is sufficient with the energy of 2800 minimum. If we put the protein content 13% along with low lysine, that gives better result in terms of semen quality and hatchability and fertility. So this is the semen quality, and semen quality another thing we take care of, that disease control or disease management during semen collection, and particularly some ear infection may be there or foot pad lesion, that is due to E. coli or that staphylococcus infection. Actually this E. coli and staphylococcus infection that may cause bilateral or unilateral orchitis, that is tremendously reduce the hatchability of chicks. Now with the genetics and breeding and egg size, actually this is the controlling factor, that nutrient controlling factor that depend upon the protein and total sulfur containing amino acid linoleic acid. In breeder farm, particularly boiler breeder, initially 1.4 to 1.5% linoleic acid is required. Later on, that 1.2 or 1.25 is sufficient. And at the same time, that total sulfur containing amino acid, it is noted that lysine is to total sulfur containing amino acid is closer to each other, that is 1:1. If it is required in first page 0.5 through this sulfur containing amino acid is 0.54. This closure, that you need to add low lysine diet in comparison to methionine. And genetics, actually boiler breeds, males are actually selected for boiler character and females are for productive purpose. If you not manage the males and females separately, you cannot get the optimum egg for further better hatchability. And in case of commercial breeder, layer breeder, actually it's a different thing. commercial layer breeder male is selected for that hatchability purpose. Actually, although this hatchability is a not heritable one, this is 10 to 15% is heritable one. So, in layer breeder, in male, in case of male, the semen quality must be improved. So, health, trace and nutrition, actually disease some, actually in breeder farm, in case of both layer and broiler breeder, both immunization program actually taken as per the depicted schedule, particularly IB, AI and IBD and other diseases, and at the same time some vertically transmitted diseases, particularly Salmonella, IB, MG, MS, which are typically transmitted from that parent to progeny, that must be taken care of, so that you must be sure that before hatching, these hatching eggs are free from these diseases. And besides that health, biosecurity point of view also taken into due course, as because in broiler breeder farm or layer breeder farm, not instead of commercial layer or broiler, in biosecurity point of view, there is a three clear zone. One is dirty zone, then is buffer zone and clean zone. Dirty zone on road, then buffer zone, there should be one office there, cleaning zone, that means vehicle disinfection, other and personal hygiene, etc. That should be done in the buffer zone. And clean zone must be allow the person, whenever after changing the dresses or proper disinfection, those who are they're working in the layer breeder or broiler breeder. And nutrition point of view, in case of both male and female, already discussed that in male, particularly high calcium diet is detrimental, because this is cause some calcification in epididymis. There is less production of semen and quality of semen will be reduced. And mating and insemination efficiency, and male activity actually, we have noted that mating tendency actually noted in the late afternoon, particularly after 4 p.m. Actually, one male can mate 10 to 15 times a day in up to 40 weeks of age. That is 3 to 5 times, that is 3 to 5 times in 1 hour. But actually mating is done, this is science behind this, after ovulation period, that after laying him. There is one question frequently asked, that's why that hatchability, why hatchability not 100% instead of 85 or 80% or 85%. This is the one reason that after mating, maybe, that there are some 15 or 20% birds may lay egg. This is same in case of AI also. Actually in AI, particularly that is done during after ovulation, particularly after 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. Actually within 2 p.m., most of the female breeders, they lay their egg within 12, 80% or 85%, and after that, up to 4 p.m., only 10 to 15% egg. That's why AI is done in afternoon. And AI timing, sometimes some problem may arise that during extreme weather condition, particularly during hot weather, due to some bindings, labor bindings, that their working hours is up to 5 p.m. This should not be happen, particularly during hot environmental condition. That AI should be during hot environmental condition, that AI should be started after 3 or after 4 p.m. when environment temperature goes down. Otherwise, that after collection semen, that sperm motility will be ensue. And semen collection, this is one of the criteria. You do collect the semen, maximum 3 to 4 male in a funnel, and inseminate the birds within shortest possible period of time, that means within 4 to 5 minutes. Otherwise, that motility of the sperm will be greatly reduced. That is that ensuing the infertile eggs. Then overall breeder management means that uniformity, as discussed, that uniformity, environment, lighting and stocking density. Actually, that lighting period is a great concern. Actually, it is noted that during long day period and higher intensity of light, particularly during summer season, there is a tendency to lay egg, double egg. Generally, it is 4% is normal, but it is light intensity is more or duration of light is more, it goes to up beyond 6%. So in such cases, beyond 16 hours of day and light management, it should be 16 hours, but light intensity will be reduced, particularly during summer season. Next. So during egg transportation, the key point that prevent cracks and rough handling. Actually, this should be taken care of during transportation, and maintaining proper temperature, humidity, particularly those hatching eggs coming from far long distance that taken actually 8 to 10 hours. And in our state or short distance, so that vehicle should be start at the early morning or the late evening. That never allow the driver or labor or to transport the hatching eggs during the hot, humid period so that the hatchability will be greatly reduced. And vehicle disinfection and washing is a great concern, because some farmers or associates, they are practicing delivery one vehicle in connection with the transportation of eggs, feed and hatching egg transport. This is a common practice some of the breeders. This should not be happen. Actually, before transportation, the vehicle should be properly disinfected and dried. Then, if it is connected with egg transportation, feed transportation, after transporting feed, you clean the vehicle and then keep for some time if it is weather is cool, then allow the driver to transport to its point at hatchery. And proper load driver and labor. It is the common tendency of the driver and labor, sometimes they are waiting or rest in the midway in dry or hot humid weather, keeping the vehicle in the sunny weather for 4 to 5 hours, they are taking rest. This should not be happen. So it greatly reduces the hatchability and chick quality. And documentation approval. Actually, some vehicles should have proper authentication or documentation that in proper licensing period. Otherwise, in traffic way, they can get stuck for few hours for the problem solved. And approval. Every transportation of egg, there should be some proper approval. Next point, that is hatchery. Hatchery fumigation and storage. Actually, after receiving the eggs, fumigation sometimes may be done and hatchery sometimes not done. Actually, this fumigation is done at the point of breeding farm, and sometimes it is done at the hatchery point. So, after arriving at the hatchery, sometimes eggs are stored more than 7 days. In such cases, the hatchability greatly reduced by 5%. Beyond 7 days, hatchability reduced by 5% each 1 day addition. And due to reduced hog unit and specific gravity, that if the storage egg is more than 7 days, then incubation time will be lengthened to be more. And sometimes that not broad end, this is wrongly written, narrow end of sometimes storage, that there is more dead in cell after hatching. So incubation factor, the critical control point are, number 1 is temperature, number 2 point is relative humidity, egg turning, ventilation and gas balance and airflow and altitude. At the same time, another factor is taken into consideration, that water quality. So temperature management in setter hatcher, generally in setter, temperature is adjusted to 37.2 to 37.8 or sometimes 38.2, and in hatcher 37.2 to 37.5 maximum, and deviation actually results in early late embryonic mortality. When the temperature in hatcher is more, there is quick embryonic development, early hatch. At the same time, disadvantage is more, that is late dead in cell is more, and dead in cell stuck in cell that coated with album. This is the typical features by seeing whatever the temperature is high or not. In low temperature, there is slow growth, uneven hatch, unhatch. Sometimes the chicks are stuck into the inner shell. And relative humidity, and another thing before that, in high temperature, it is noted that in high temperature, actually vital organ, particularly heart and gizzard development is less in comparison to low temperature. And in humidity, relative humidity in setter to be fixed at 55 to 60%, and in HR 65 to 70, sometimes 75%. But during hatch, this temperature relative humidity approaches up to 80 to 90%. And what is the consequence of too low relative humidity? That excess moisture loss, smaller chicks, longer incubation. This is one point that if low humidity is there, that cells, that embryo, that stuck into enough cells. This is a typical feature. And high humidity there is reduced evaporation, that poor chick quality, and low hatchability. At the same time, in temperature, relative humidity is too high. This causes drowned chicks that cannot inflate the embryo to its lungs. That's after hatching. That means after hatching, there is a respiratory problem. This may happen during the rainy season, particularly from July to September. This is one of the reasons why sometimes the farmers, they are confused whether this problem may be some brooder's pneumonia or not. This is one of the reasons if relative humidity in hatcher is too high. This is the respiratory problem may occur, besides that brooder's pneumonia or any other diseases. This is the management point of view. And another point is incubation factor, that is egg turning, that we are considering angle versus. Actually egg turning, the objective of egg turning to prevent the adhesion of embryo to the cell, and number two, getting uniform nutrient, particularly getting from albumin and yolk for its proper development and hatch in due course. And angle is critical. Actually turning is done actually initially setter in a 24-hour basis, 24 times. Actually if it turning 4 to 6 times a day, then hatchability greatly reduced by 20%. And angle, actually turning is generally done 40 to 45 degree angle to its vertical for optimum hatchability, as the data shows that in 20 degree angle to its vertical shows 68 maximum 70% hatchability, and 30 degree 78 to 80, and 40 degree 85 to 88% hatchability. That's optimum turning angle is 40, 45. And inadequate turning, that consequence is malposition, early death, and some other consequences that may arise in the post-hatch. Then next critical point of discussion is ventilation, oxygen and carbon dioxide balance. That developing embryo requires constant oxygen supply. In actually 21% oxygen demand is required for optimum hatchability. Sometimes if it is reduced to 17%, that hatchability greatly reduced by 10 to 20%. And hatchability actually in sometimes first 9 to 10 days, sometimes oxygen tension is reduced by 17% for augmentation of early development of the organs, particularly respiratory system and cardiovascular system. And oxygen demand during the hatching time, particularly after 19, this is more. And carbon dioxide tolerance is one of the key factors. Within the first 4 days, carbon dioxide concentration in the setter would be 0.3% or 3000 ppm, and 4 to 7 days, this concentration goes up to 0.5 or 5000 ppm. Beyond that level, that gradually reduces the hatchability. Sometimes that carbon dioxide stimulus is given first 9 days by strategic non-ventilation within the setter for augmenting the development of cardiovascular system as well as that respiratory system, that is for better organogenesis. And carbon dioxide above 5% level, this is lethal. And in carbon dioxide concentration in HR goes up to 0.7 to 0.8%, as because starting from hatching, the chicks respire as well as that carbon dioxide concentration goes up. Airflow and heat balance. Airflow actually required for maintaining the thermoregulation and oxygen exchange, oxygen and carbon dioxide action. Air speed actually does not matter, that affect the hatchability. First 13 days that heat is required for proper development of the embryo. and next after 13 days, that removal of heat is critical. And poor airflow, sometimes that cause overheating of that hatchery, that cause late embryo death or late dead cell. And what are the effect on altitude on hatchability? In altitude, higher altitude means there is low oxygen tension. That means their hatchability is greatly reduced. Up to 2,500 feet, their hatchability to some extent not reduced statistically or significantly not reduced. But after 3,000 feet, that hatchability is greatly reduced. That can be managed by proper ventilation and temperature adjustment. So in hatchery, there is some embryonic mortality pattern. Actually, early, if it is early mortality within 7 days, that may be nest management, on-farm egg storage, egg transportation, holding of eggs. If it is holding of eggs more than 7 days, that greatly reduce the hatchability as well early, that early embryonic mortality. Meat death in particularly associated with breeder nutrition and deficiency, particularly vitamins. And late setter hatcher condition, transfer condition, and pull time. Actually, transfer condition, particularly during winter season, it is a common practice. After candling, they are directly shifting to the hatcher. But before the setting transfer to the hatcher, they make the environment of hatchery for ambient temperature that within 32 or minimum 34, 5, 6 degrees centigrade. But it is environmental temperature 10 to 11, that hatcher temperature 36 or 37, that may prone to cold shock. That is late deadening cell will be more. Other influencing factor, that water quality, as discussed, the water quality actually in parent farm, if the water contains more chlorine, which prone to more cat, which invites the bacterial infection. And nitrate content, nitrogen, nitrogen, it is more than 10 ppm. There is reduced hatchability due to impaired vitamin A metabolism. And length of incubation period is also taken as a point whether the hatchability effect. Weather, actually in extreme weather condition, in hot and humid, their hatchability is greatly reduced. Particularly, it has been noticed that July to September, there is hatchability 2 to 3% is reduced by the normal weather condition. Then other situation that from October to February, March or April. Next, though, what are the chicks quality ideal? The chicks quality will be bright, alert, active, yellow, that should be dry and fluffy, clean, complete seal navel, and no deformity or red hawk, uniform size and well hydrated, healthy beak and open nostril. This ideal chick quality actually score by TONA score. TONA score, that is depending by 0 to 100. Generally, greater than 190 is considered as excellent chick quality. That is clean navel, dry and healthy beak, open nostril, no red hawks, etc. These are the TONA scores. Another quality assessment is chick weight. Chick weight is considered as 42 to 44 grams, that 60 to 64 grams hatching egg. This is considered one of the ideal parameter for quality assessment of chicks. Another is, if you quality of chicks is assessed by rectal temperature also. If it is rectal temperature is 103 to 105 degrees Fahrenheit, this is considered as this chicks is good and dry, optimum hydrated. And another point, that is navel score. Navel score, that if it is the navel score 1 to 4, it is 1, this is quality considered as excellent quality chicks. Then what are the factors affecting chick quality? That management already discussed, that egg size and storage, incubation condition, early or late, the time spent in hatcher. This is the most critical point. What is the time spent in hatcher for hatching? Actually, time spent in hatcher, that is minimum it should be 8 to 16 hours. And disease, Pullorum, E. coli, MG, MS, particularly that that vertically transmitted disease, that should be taken care of in due course, and that should be immunized in breeder farm. And viral, IBND, ILT, AI, fowl pox, etc. And fungals to some extent, that although it is not coming from directly from parent farm, it is coming from hatchery itself or during transportation in basket. And nutrition hatchability, that chicks hatchability, that is energy and protein. And some minerals, particularly zinc and selenium. And chick quality also directly associate some other factor, particularly addition of antioxidant vitamin E, selenium, and PUFA, particularly arachidonic acid in milk diet, also directly that affect the chick quality. And vitamin content A, D, E, K, particularly not B12, also B1 is also responsible for good quality in chicks and which prevent the early dead cell, particularly thiamine. Thiamine pyrophosphate is active form which is responsible for energy metabolism. This is the key factor. So, main focus on breeder farm is consider our amino acid and ME requirement and epigenetic influence on progeny and health and nutritional programming during critical period. Amino acid ME requirement, actually now the broader breeder nutrition is coming on low amino acid profile energy. Instead of we are putting more protein, we are focusing on amino acid, particularly low lysine and high energy diet is critical point of view, and this is the era of discussion. And epigenetic influence means whether the effect of parent transferred to the progeny. That epigenetic influence, particularly this is target specific oriented. Actually epigenetic influence that may be done by DNA methylation, histone acetylation, and DNA then gene change without changing the DNA code. That actually simultaneously the transfer to the multi-translational phenotypic traits in terms of production, maturity, and health. These are the table that shows that this is the previous data, that lysine requirement, actually as discussed, the lysine and ME requirement is the point of discussion whether for better chicks quality and breeder nutrition. That lysine from the beginning, this is total amino acid in lysine, they are digestible. That oil at all, that lysine requirement from the beginning, this is requirement is less, and this variation do exist from the beginning to till date, and this digestible lysine is far precision that total. And this is the amino acid ratio. These are the ratio that already discussed, particularly in association with total sulfur containing amino acid and lysine. These are the ratios actually closer to 1:1. This is the some previous study. And this is the ME requirement that can be calculated on the body weight, their production, and as discussed that in layer also, that not only the protein concentration, this should be focus should be given on the energy as well as calcium. So offspring effect, that higher ME and lysine ratio should be breeder diet, that higher lysine ME ratio is there, lower feed intake, so there are lower crude intake that efficiently attain target body weight, as that directly affect the higher feed intake by the progeny or broiler or improved better FCR. That so maternal amino acid and ME balance should be influence the progeny performance. So offspring that discussed that lower lysine and lower protein content is a era of discussion of future research that already discussed, not detailing more. So this is the epigenetic mechanism that already discussed, that DNA methylation, histone acetylation, and gene regulation influenced by maternal nutrition traits. And this is not translational, this is multi-translation phenotypic traits that being expressed via parent to progeny. This is the current topics of discussion. And in layer breeder, actually they are hatching a hen house hatching than boiler breeder, and male is selected for fertility and hatchability. That's why but in hatchability is not a heritable trait. This is 10 to 15% heritable. So focus should be on semen quality, as discussed semen quality, how it is influenced by. So feed and conclusion, that incubation period, that feed quality is already discussed, that. And conclusion, that hatchability and progeny performance require holistic management, and nutrition, genetics, and incubation are interconnected. And lysine ME ratio impacts the breeder and offspring performance. That epigenetic approach that already discussed, how epigenetic performance influences progeny. This is hot topic for future opportunity, and these are the some scientific approaches that mitigate the modern hatchery and current boiler situation and challenges. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A big thank you to Dr.